Just like that, the 2025-26 college basketball season is in the books, and it's Michigan, national champions. The Wolverines take down the UConn Huskies for their second ever national championship in program history and the first in nearly 4 decades, Drew.
And a few days ago, I think I said Michigan was going to take down UConn in the national championship. He picked Arizona over here. How about that, Sam?
That is true. And I know we're all looking forward to my battle with Purvis and the Juicer. We've got an hour show coming your way. We'll reflect on the great season that was over the course of the next hour. It's a no Pulp finale on the college basketball season, and it starts right now.
Lane Kiffin is the same old scumbag who takes off for the next best thing again.
I have a man crush, and it's Caleb Wilson, Max. I love this guy.
Solano's in trouble. Hit as he throws. Hangs it up towards the end zone. And it's intercepted! Virginia has done it!
You can never doubt UConn. You can never doubt Gino Auriemma at the end of the day.
Like you could have blocked a 6'4" linebacker coming at you while you were.
Call or no! Holloman looks the clock. Half court for the win!
When you got the best player in the country, you can really do anything.
Nobody expected DJ Lagway to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country because last year he wasn't good either.
First time, how are we feeling, Jake?
I'm excited to win the juicer.
A century of utility is forgotten. The Indiana Hoosiers are the kings of college football.
And with that, welcome in to another edition of No Pulp postgame after the national championship took place in Indianapolis. Again, Michigan taking down UConn to win just its second ever national championship and preventing UConn from winning its third in 4 years. He's Drew Albaugh. I'm Sam Reis. We'll be with you for the next hour or so, breaking this game all down and also just looking back on the whole season that was. But let's start with that championship game that we all just witnessed, Drew. Your first thoughts after Michigan gets the job done?
Defense wins championships, Sams. It happens once. It's going to happen again. And Michigan proves why it's the best defensive team in the entire country. UConn shot just 30% from the field.
Lowest field goal percentage of the season.
Right, and you're not going to win many games if you shoot 30% from the field.
No.
The last 4 games, Michigan held their opponents to their lowest shooting marks of the season. I mean, that's what happens when Michigan plays any team, and UConn was the victims tonight, just 9 for 33, 27% from the three-point line as well.
Yeah, uncharacteristic for them too, but that's a testament to Michigan. The last 4 teams they faced in this tournament, they held their respective opponents to season lows in field goal percentage. So I have to agree with you, Drew. All about the defense, a sloppy game at times, but Michigan did what it took to win the national championship, and you have to tip your cap to them.
It really did.
Yeah, I mean, they were the better team. And in case you missed the action, let's get to how this one played out inside Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. A great scene where Michigan, as I mentioned, trying to win its first national championship since 1989. UConn trying to go for its third in 4 years. And early on, it was Michigan with the lead, but UConn kept this game close throughout the course of the first half. There you see a step back 3 from who else but Alex Caravan. Braden Mullins also got in on the fun. Throughout the course of this first half, it was actually Michigan who was the worst shooting team from beyond the arc, Drew.
Right, Caravan finishes with a team-high 17 points, kept him in this one, but Michigan just hangs around defensively and, of course, around the rim.
Second chance opportunity here. Rodney Gale, watch out.
Get up.
Takes flight. That was the play of the first half. Dan Hurley visibly frustrated with how those first 20 minutes closed out. But it was a 4-point game at the half. This was really the turning point. Early second half. Big 3 from Elliot Cadeau, who came to play. He was Michigan's leading scorer. It was a double-digit game at that point. UConn kept staying within reach, but Michigan continued to have an answer. Adai Mara with the flush on the alley-oop. And the Wolverines just hit some clutch shots down the stretch. Trey McKinney, who was pretty quiet throughout the night, with a big one there.
That one felt like a big leap. It was a 5-point swing after that McKinney 3.
But how about this bank shot, solo ball, with really giving UConn some life. They actually ruled that a 2 at first, reversed it to a 3. However, UConn just couldn't do enough down the stretch. to get this within one possession. A great clearance there, and the time runs out on UConn's season. Michigan victorious 69-63. The Wolverines, especially in the second half, were in control of this game. And it's really no surprise that they come out on top with how this played out, Drew.
Elliot Cadeau, 19 points, a game high for both sides. He was electric, 5 for 11, also does it 8 for 9 at the free throw line. This is a Wolverines team that finishes 25 for 28 at the stripe, 2 missed free throws down the stretch, but without those big free throws, Michigan doesn't win this one. And of course, Johnson, how about that? A little double-double for the kid. Right. 69 points for Michigan, the 6-point victory for UConn. And man, this was a fun one back and forth, but Sam, it kind of always felt like the Wolverines were going to take this one.
It did. The way this game played out, where it was, a hard fought, like I said at the top, sloppy game at times. Michigan
I thought it was
likes
a better
to play
defensive game than sloppy.
Yeah, I mean, at times I felt like both teams were going a bit too fast. But yeah, it played into Michigan's favor, and they did make some big-time plays. Alex Caravan, despite a valiant effort, can't win his third championship, which would have been quite the feat.
Would have been the first player in over 50 years.
Yeah, crazy. Wow. Still a great UConn career from him. But let's get to the stars of the show for Michigan, because, well, Yaxel Lendenborg, we'll get into him later, struggled battling through injury.
Didn't even need him today. So.
They didn't need him. That's what I was going to say. The guys that they needed to step up, stepped up. Elliot Cadeau and Morez Johnson were big time on the brightest stage.
Right, yeah. We talked about Lendenborg with just 13 points. Didn't shoot the ball all too well. Today, it was really the Elliot Cadeau show, and of course, Morez Johnson. Both of them absolutely electric for Michigan. Without those two, the Wolverines don't win this one. Unsung heroes, sure, but it was Cadeau all tournament long that I said a few days ago, Sam, he brings the edge to this Michigan Wolverines team, the bite, if you will. How about that reverse layup? He was huge for this Wolverines team. Without him, I mean, this one, I don't even know if Michigan gets to the Final Four in this one.
No, that's, that's fair to say, I think.
I mean, do you not think he's kind of the straw that stirs the drink to this Michigan team?
Cadeau was on his game from the start. I think we got to give Johnson a lot of credit, too.
Double-double.
Double-double. Right. I mean, those 10 rebounds, pretty big for those second chance opportunities, because again, it wasn't all pretty from Michigan offensively, but they did enough in this game to get the job done, right? Because for as much as we're saying Michigan, and rightly so, giving them praise for quieting UConn offensively, Michigan struggled a lot from three. I mean, 2 for 15 from downtown, but it's a testament to their play that they were still winning at the half. And that's in large part due to the play of Johnson and Cadeau.
Right. Michigan shot just 38% from the field.
Yeah.
And still wins this game.
Right, which was better than UConn, but still not pretty.
Not at all. Under 40%?
Yeah.
If you said Michigan is going to shoot under 40% and win this ball game, I'd call you crazy. Especially if you talk about how Lendenborg, just 13 points. I mean, he was not good today. He played 36 minutes. He was up till dang near 5 a.m. last night on Instagram Live, and he played like it. He played like it, Sam. He was not good, and that's how deep this Michigan team is. You want to talk about Dan Hurley's mindset? All right, let's shut down Lendenborg, but then what's happened? Morez Johnson and Cadeau, they both have a great game. This Michigan team is too deep. The star player doesn't play well, and they still look like the better team for 40 minutes.
I mean, it's hard to criticize Lendenborg too much. I mean, he was playing through injury, right?
He's 4 for 13 from the field.
He didn't show up. But you're right, because Michigan, they're too deep. They're too deep, too talented, and against a pesky UConn team that just finds ways to win, they couldn't do it tonight. And that's a testament to the way they executed, that kind of, not next man up mentality, but who needs to show up when it matters the most. And Cadeau and Johnson in particular, they were there to do the job.
And it's hard to find a way to win against, maybe a more scrappy, quote-unquote, UConn team. But you can't be more scrappy when 2 of your main guys are on the bench for a lot of that second half.
Yeah.
There was a big problem as far as foul trouble for the Huskies. Michigan put them in uncomfortable spots, especially Silas Demery played just 12 minutes and fouled out. I mean, he was held to 2 points today.
2 points. Yeah, very disappointing from Demery, who, if you watch this show on Thursday, I was very high on. I think he's a fantastic player, but the early foul trouble really limited him. And
he was on the court for 12 minutes.
Right. He could barely play because of that, and that's really a shame. No. Solo ball, too, he was up to 4 fouls. So early on in that second half, he was starting to get into foul trouble. That's no good for a guy who can really deliver some big shots when you need him to. You can call that bank 3 luck, but he was there in that moment to deliver. But there were other moments in the second half where he had to be on the bench, and you could tell they had to be a little bit more conservative with the way they played, which is not really UConn style, right? And so that led to some real difficulties, because not only were you getting some of your star players into foul trouble, Drew, but it was putting Michigan at the line a lot, and Michigan barely missed from the line. That was one of their strong suits. Like, they were nailing
89%.
89%
from the stripe.
So there you have it.
It's not exactly
that's a make or break right there.
Right. I mean, I'm not good at math. We've already established that here on the show, but I don't need to be a mathematician to 25 free throws. If you make those, I mean, this game's going to be tough to win, especially when your best players are on the bench instead of on the court. Yeah. That was an obvious problem for UConn today.
Right, especially for a Huskies team that relies on some of those guys being on the court for those pivotal moments. Hence, the comeback against Duke, where they were all there on their game. Couldn't really ever get into a rhythm, Drew. And that goes to our next conversation, because the shooting lulls were evident throughout the game on both sides. Again, not pretty, but sometimes that's just how a national championship plays out. But I think it especially affected UConn when you combine that with the foul trouble, where there were spells where they just could not make a shot. Whereas Michigan, they kind of sustained that, even though they went on some droughts themselves.
UConn couldn't hit the broadside of a barn a lot of times in this game. This is a team that shot just over 30% from the field. Combined, both Michigan and UConn, Sam, 0 fast break points. Not a layup, not a jump shot, not a transition 3. No fast break points for Michigan or for UConn. This was a crunch down game, fighting down low. Michigan might have the best defense around the cup that I've seen in my entire life. I mean, they were guarding everything.
It was crazy.
It felt like UConn driving to the cup in open layups still felt defended, because there was the Michigan defense breathing down UConn's back. I mean, my goodness. And then on the other side, I mean, Michigan shoots 2 for 15 from 3, and UConn's 9 for 33.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that, because the 9 for 33 is what stands out, because I think that proves that Michigan played so well in the paint that it got to the point where UConn was like, okay, we kind of have to settle for. Yeah, really settle's the right word, I think. Settle for these 3-point shots, which they weren't making with enough consistency to shoot well and stay in this game.
And once in a while, you're going to make a few of those threes to keep you in it there, but UConn needed to get inside, and Michigan was guarding the cup like my mom and her dark chocolate. Wow. I mean, there was nothing that Michigan couldn't do around the rim. UConn could not score around the cup. It was crazy to watch.
And the Wolverines were more successful with those points in the paint, too.
Sure.
Which is a deciding factor. They got to the line more, got UConn in foul trouble. That's the difference in this game, and that's why the Michigan Wolverines are 2026 national champions after a 69-63 win over UConn. We're just getting the fun started here on No Pulp Late Night Edition, and after the break, I'm going against Cole Purvis in the juicer. Apparently, no matter the result, I still can't make the tournament. That's ridiculous, but I'll still win anyways. That's next.
Welcome back into No Pulp. Drew Albaugh alongside my co-host Sam Reis and the visitor, Cole Purvis. Challenging Sam Reis over
territory.
Here. There you go. Already 0 for 1 on the season here. So you got to get back to 500.
Ready to put him into retirement.
They felt bad for everyone else after I went 5-0 last semester. So.
He just said you're about to go to a retirement home soon.
Yeah, we'll see about
That's
that.
not good. All right, let's go to our first question here on the Juicer. Remember, it's a ramping scale. The first one's worth 1 point, then 2 points, 3 points, and a bonus question for the win if we need it. But without further ado, let's go a little bit outside of today. Which eliminated team was more deserving of a title appearance? Cole, we'll go to the visitor, of course, first.
All right. I'm going with Duke. This is a team that you watched the game tonight, especially the first half. It was very sloppy. Duke would have put up a better offensive performance. Look, this Duke squad lost 3 games this season by a combined 5 points, and it took one of the all-time March Madness moments, the Braylon Mullins shot in the Elite Eight, to eliminate them.
So
if you look at the bottom of work, at the body of work throughout the entire season, the Blue Devils were arguably the most talented team in all of the NCAA. And look, Isaiah Evans could have contained Elliot Cadeau a lot better than UConn did. Boozer could have guarded Lendeborg. Cameron Boozer would have done a much better job. So Duke is the best team that was eliminated before the national championship.
Let me explain. If you can't get the ball, if you can't hold on to the ball with the lead and you give it away like that, you don't deserve it. They choked. It was a 19-point lead. They don't deserve it. Choke artists are the Blue Devils.
All right, what do you got?
Illinois. Okay. Because they were uncharacteristically really poor shooting the ball in that Final Four game against UConn. I think if you run it back and it's really any other game this tournament, Illinois shoots the ball better and they win. And they really had an impressive tournament to the point where I think it was just unfortunate that in the Final Four is when they fell short, just going 6 for 26 from 3. If a few of those shots go in, which they usually do for them, they're into the national championship, and I think they deserved it because it was just tough to see that they couldn't make those shots when it mattered the most, but they still only lost that game by 9. They could have easily beat UConn.
Could have, would have, should have. I don't know. This was a close one. It's tough, right? Duke should have gone the ball past half court, but if you want to talk about which eliminated team was more deserving, I'm going to go with the Blue Devils. I got to. I have to.
They didn't even make it to championship weekend. So, yeah, they're more deserving.
I think this Blue Devil team might have won the whole thing if they got past UConn. First point does go to the visitor, Cole Purvis. You still have plenty of time to rebound here, Sam. But we'll go back to Cole for question number 2. This game, we got to go back to the national championship. Most disappointing player performance. What do you have, Cole?
I'm going to go with Braylon Mullins. Look, in March, you need your role players to come up big. He's the reason that UConn got here with that shot against Duke in the Elite Eight. But today, just 4 for 17, playing a little bit of hero ball. He heated up a little bit later in the contest, but he was a shot chucker today, and a lot of shots not particularly accurate either. So Braylon Mullins, somebody that was trying to do a little bit too much for this Duke squad. Started out 2 for 14, recovered a bit, as I mentioned, but still, he's been the X factor this entire tournament long and had his worst game of the tournament today. He was the reason that they lost this game.
Okay,
Sam?
You can't say Mullins is the most disappointing. When he was the unsung hero of that Duke game, nobody expected him to do that. Nobody's expecting much from Braylon Mullins. People are expecting a lot more from Yaxel Lendeborg, who was terrible tonight. I get it. You're dealing with an injury, but he made the decision to play through it, and you have to perform better, right? Terrible first half with just 4 points. Yeah, a little bit better in the second half, but just 4 for 13 from the field. 0 for 5 from beyond the arc for a guy that's being talked about as potentially the best player in the nation.
He's lifting the trophy.
Yeah, he is, because his teammates carried him. We talked about this already before in the show, that if it wasn't for Cadeau and Johnson, Michigan probably doesn't win this game. Lendeborg got bailed out because he was bad tonight.
I do think in this one, both guys didn't play great, but Mullins down the stretch did start to heat up, and Yaxel Lendeborg, maybe the best player in the entire nation. He played awful tonight. The Wolverines carried him. I'm going to go with Yaxel Lendeborg, and so Sam Reis, and potentially his last ever juicer, up to.
Well, apparently
definitely his last.
Apparently the math tells me I don't have a chance.
He's a dangerous man. He's playing with house money. He's got nothing to lose.
We just never know what's going to happen here. All right, on to our final question. Question number 3. Most impressive individual performance in this one. And instead of Cole, we're going to go over to Sam to close things out. Winner take all question 3.
Yeah.
Most impressive individual, who we got?
It's easy. It's Elliot Cadeau. From the get-go, he was on his game and ready to go, right? Leading all scorers and points. He was on his game for Michigan and was really good with his shot selection. Was it pretty all the time? No, 5 for 11, but the free throw shooting. You have to be clutch in big moments like the national championship. He found a way to earn himself trip after trip to the line. He only missed 1 free throw in 9 attempts. 8 for 9 is pretty good. I'm pretty sure that's like 88%, which is really, really good.
And you're not great at math.
No, and listen, in a big moment like this, big game like this, you could fold under pressure. Cadeau was ready for the moment. Hit some big shots, more importantly, knocked down crucial free throw after crucial free throw. It's an easy answer.
He played pretty good. Cole, your response?
It's easy to look at the points, and he was the leading scorer for this Michigan squad today. But here's the thing. Reis Johnson cleaned up the glass like no other player in this contest. 5 offensive rebounds, which was really the reason that Michigan got it done today. They had the physical edge in the paint, and his play allowed things to open up for Michigan's guards on the outside. He also added 12 points in this one, too. He added the physical element to this Wolverine offense, and he was incredible today, just bullying UConn's bigs. Terrace Reid couldn't do anything inside against Reis Johnson, who I think has a bright future in the NBA, and he showed it today with Michigan in the national championship. He was the real MVP today.
I have to say, I think you two chose the right 2 players. This is a tough one. The 2 best guys on the eventual national championship winning team. But I've said it all along. I think that the straw that stirs the drink for Michigan got to be Elliot Cadeau. So I'm going to go with Sam Reis, the winner, the double-double for Reis Johnson.
I had to go out with a win.
Of course.
And this is an ex-winner of the whole juicer, so you got to go out on top.
Well, let's check it last time. I'm glad you didn't this time.
Let's check out our juicer standings. Cole just misses out after his 0 for 1 performance this season. And Samuel Reis, your adversary, Ryan Croak.
I have a better
Ryan
beat
Croak
you.
is
And he only played 1 time.
Ryan beat you.
That's ridiculous, because if he goes again, if Ryan went again, I would have been in.
My allegiance is with Ryan Croak in the sophomore class.
Of course you do, Cole. You just lost to Sam, who ends up just missing out. Of course, you see who's in first? Yeah, 2-0. Drew Albaugh, number 1 seed.
Let's do the NBA play-in.
All right. Well, maybe next time. Okay. Well, what's coming up next on No Pulp? We're ranking the last 5 NCAA tournaments. What was the best? What was the worst? All that and more on No Pulp.
Welcome to my house. Lately, not my happy place. Everybody's pretty tired of each other. The parents were not themselves. My little brothers were morphing into small creatures. The walls were closing in. Clearly, a case of too much family, too close, 24/7. And there's a lot of that going around right now. If this sounds like your house, try going someplace new. YourLifeYourVoice.org. You'll find lots of ideas to help you handle the family stresses of being confined to close quarters. YourLifeYourVoice.org. It might not get you out of the house, but it could help you find a little more breathing room.
Welcome back to No Pulp. I'm the juicer winner, Sam Reis, with Drew Albaugh.
I thought you forgot your name there for a second, Sam.
No.
Is that what winning does to you?
Hype it up. We're back here on No Pulp, and Drew said it. We're going to rank the last 5 NCAA tournaments, including this year. We're going to go from 5 worst in the last 5 years down to up to 1, I should say, best tournament in the last 5 years. We're starting with you at number 5, Drew.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I'm going with 2025, so just last season.
Year, yep.
Here we go, over in San Antonio. I mean, all 4 1 seeds made the Final Four. It was a lot of chalk, and I don't like chalk. It's called March Madness, not March Chalkness. I don't know what else you're going to say to that one. I mean, it was entertaining. And look, All March Madnesses are entertaining at the end of the day, but only 4 total upsets. That ties the fewest ever. No team seeded 12 or below won a single game. And to add salt to the wound, the SEC with 14 of 16 teams making the tournament, the ACC with only 4, and I'm not an SEC guy at all. Yeah, it was that many, 14 teams. So I'm going with 2025. Again, all of these are going to be great because it's March Madness, it's the NCAA tournament, but I'm going 2025.
But some are worse than others.
Exactly. And what's your worst one?
My worst one is this year.
What?
Yeah. So I get what you're saying with all 1 seeds in the Final Four.
There were some great moments
2025. I'll get to 2025 in a moment once I get to that on my list. Great, not as many to be honest. It was more or less similar chalk. I get there was a 2 and 3 seed in the Final Four. Outside of Texas getting to the Sweet 16, which was cool, I guess, because they came from the first 4 to that. Outside of Texas going on that run, and that UConn-Duke game being epic.
And maybe that's the best shot of all time.
Okay, that's what saved the tournament.
Sure. What was the moment
Okay, I judge tournaments based on 1, amount of upsets because those are great. There weren't many this year. And 2, how good the Final Four was because those games you want to be exciting. Final Four wasn't great.
But who had less upsets? 2025.
Yeah, barely though. 2020.
It was the least of all time.
Okay, well let's move on. All
right. Yeah.
Because I'm going to prove why you're wrong in a moment.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see.
All right. Well, yeah. Let's get to number 4 then. I'm going to start with my number 4, and it is 2025. So with 2024, I should say. 2025 was my number 3. I'm getting ahead of myself.
I almost convinced him there.
No, because I was going to get to why 2025 was so great.
You were jumping
I'm going to wait for that. 2024, a couple of years back, wasn't a great tournament, in my opinion, because of just the way UConn blew out everyone.
UConn
right?
was
that made it not fun. Now, what made this at least better than this year is there was a true Cinderella that made it fun in NC State. So NC State,
DJ Burns.
Yeah, winning 5 games in 5 days at the ACC tournament and then going all the way to the Final Four. That's what really saved this tournament. Because outside of that, UConn literally dominated the competition and it really soured the fun for me because they won every game by double-digit points in this one.
I totally agree. I'm going to go with 2024 for number 4.
Okay, so we align there.
We align there in the 4 spot. And it's a similar reason why all 1 and 2 seeds got to the Sweet 16, so not a bunch of upsets. The big storyline, of course, TJ Burns. Holy smokes, was he fun to watch. The 11 seed NC State gets all the way to the Final Four, but UConn just rolls. I will have to mention Jack Golke in Oakland. That 14 seed Oakland team to take down Kentucky. I mean, him saying post-game, they're going to be in the NBA. I'm not. I know that, but I can compete. And he competed the heck out of that game, shooting the lights out. That was a really fun moment. I got to say, that was one of the better ones. So that's going to be my number 4 selection, Sam.
Okay, so we both agree there. Now let's go to number 3. We might differ there.
I mean, it looks like we're going to have to differ here at some point, Sam.
Yeah, that's
and
how it works,
my number 3 team is going to be 2023.
Yep.
And this was a really good tournament. A really good tournament. FAU gets all the way to the Final Four. San Diego State. A lot of cool upsets, but at the end of the day, there wasn't these big marquee blue blood matchups towards the end that I didn't love it towards the end of the tournament. This is still a top 3 tournament over the last 5 years. Had a lot of fun with this one, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't my favorite. That's why I think it's number 3. However, I will say, FDU, believe it, takes down Purdue by 5. The 16 seed takes down number 1 seed. The shortest team took down Zach Edey in the 7-footer. That's a pretty good storyline. That's why I'm going to go with number 3 for my top 5 teams.
I think that's incredibly harsh putting that at number 3.
It's good. It's top
awesome.
3.
I thought it was awesome.
3.
Okay.
All right. So
well, I'll get to more of 2023 in a moment. But for my number 3 pick, I'm going with last year, 2025. Because yes, very few upsets, plenty of chalk, but it made for a pretty thrilling set of teams.
Which is why I didn't pick 2023.
All right. Well, yeah, sure. But the upsets were fun there. With 2025, not only was, maybe it's a little bit of a bummer that it's all 1 seeds in it, but the games delivered, Drew. Duke choking they choked this year, but they choked last year too against Houston. That ending was awesome. The national championship was awesome. It came down to the last possession between Florida and Houston. That's why I think it was incredibly harsh of you to put 2025
There's going to be good moments
in
all of these.
Yeah, but you want it. In my opinion, you want some of the best games to happen at the end when it matters the most in the Final Four and the championship. And it delivered both Final Four games and the championship were phenomenal. Came down to the wire. I loved championship weekend last year. This year, not so hot, right?
But if you want the best teams at the end, then why is 2023 still going to be in one of your top two slots?
I'm saying,
these teams are not the best.
I'm saying it wasn't great that it was all one seeds, but the games delivered big time. That's why they're middle of the pack instead of the bottom.
I mean, some of the games did. I mean, the Florida game, yes. The Florida-Houston game was a great game. Yes. It came back.
Houston-Duke was unbelievable. Yeah. No one will ever forget that.
There's good games in all of these, Sam. And
sure.
I don't know. I think 2023 here, if your argument is the best teams at the end, we'll have to see. But what's your number 2, Sam? What's your top? Because now we're getting into the...
Now we are.
These are the elite of the elite.
Number 2 is 2022 for me.
23? Okay. All right.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yep.
22.
2022 because it was a lot of fun, right? You had St. Peter's becoming the first 15 seed to make the Elite 8. You also had North Carolina making it all the way to the national championship as an 8 seed. You had the rivalry game of Duke-UNC in that Final Four.
I totally agree with you. I love 2022.
And Kansas overcoming a 16-point deficit in that national title game. If that didn't happen, UNC would have won it all as an 8 seed, which would have been pretty cool. That was an unbelievable national championship. So I think it had to be top 2. I put it 2.
It has to be top 1 in my mind because you're going to see pretty quickly here. I love the 2022 season.
Okay.
Love that pick, Sam. I think it should have flip-flopped because my number 2 team, you still don't see.
You keep saying team.
Yeah, team, season.
Yeah.
It's the teams that make up the season. Am I right? It's 2026.
Yeah.
It's this year
Really?
in the number 2 slot.
How?
You have it 5.
This year
I have
wasn't-
it 2 because I think there's some of the best shots I've ever seen in March Madness. You don't think Braylon Mullen? Look at that shot first off.
Sure, it was great.
Kentucky, Santa Clara, that was one of the best final minutes of basketball I've ever seen in my entire life. And then Duke absolutely sells. And Braylon Mullins hits maybe the best shot outside of the Jenkins, national championship, never be beaten shot to win and beat Duke. That is why I think 2026 is one of the best tournaments over the last 5 years because you can put pen to paper of what some of these best moments are. Epic Duke collapse. High Point beats Wisconsin. Chase Johnston with 14
that's one. Okay, all right. Let's settle down. You're hyping this up like it was the best tournament ever.
His first two-pointer of the whole season was to take down Wisconsin.
Sure, there were cool moments, just not as many as usual. I feel like.
I think there's more moments. If we're talking moments, I can picture like 7 in my head right now that jumps to memory, including what I think to be one of the top 3 shots in all of college basketball ever.
If that UConn comeback against Duke doesn't happen, and that shot doesn't happen.
It doesn't. It's not a 2.
It's awful. It's bottom.
But
it should be.
Do you have a better moment in mind than that shot?
Yeah, FDU beating Purdue.
That's not a.
Of course, it's a moment.
It's a game.
It's a great moment.
It's a game. Duke sells the ball away, and Braylon Mullins
I do actually.
hits the shot
San
of his
Diego
life.
State buzzer beater over FAU in the Final
It's not
Four.
better than Braylon Mullins. Come on.
Okay, I'll get to my number 1 in a moment. Let's get to you first because you don't want to stop talking.
It's the last postage stamp, still not on the board. It's the best over the last 5 years, 2022. The Blue Bloods battle it out. 4 of the best coaches of all, outside of Hubert Davis and UNC, of course. Now,
he's gone.
Now
I
he's
predicted
hit the
that
road.
on the show, by the way.
There you go. But Coach K in his last hurrah loses to North Carolina. Bill Self from Kansas gets their second. This was such a fun one with some of the best teams battling it out. Not to mention, of course, maybe my favorite team over the last decade, St. Peter's. Doug Eddard, oh my goodness, was he electric in this one. The driving force in that St. Peter's run. It has the perfect blend of the underdog teams, but also you have the Blue Bloods at the end. That's what I think the other 4 are missing. That's why I got 2022 at the tippity top in the last 5 years.
Okay, 2022 was great. That's why I had it at number 2. But I can't believe still that 2026 is at number 2. By the way, this year,
it's the best moment of the last 5 years.
No teams ranked 13 through 16 won a game in the first round. Let me give you my number 1 because it's 2023 when there was a whole lot of chaos and it was awesome. I mentioned it, a 16 beating a 1. FDU taking down Purdue. Not only that, a 15 seed in Princeton beat Arizona and then won another game to make it to the Sweet 16
Go Tigers.
as a 15 seed. Oh, by the way, a 9 seed in Florida Atlantic, led by this guy coming onto the scene named Dusty May, making it all the way to the Final Four.
I think he's going to be successful one day,
How awesome is this? There wasn't a 1, 2, or 3 seed in the Final Four. It was a 4, 5, and 9. And by the way, the games delivered. The San Diego State buzzer beater over FAU, I will never forget that moment because FAU was that close to making it to a national championship. That was incredible. I loved everything about this tournament.
It lacks the blue blood star power at the end. That's what it lacks.
But it was great. Like it was something different.
You mentioned no top 4 seeds make it, right? Or no top 3 seeds. UConn, of course, the 4 seed.
That's what it's all about.
No,
March
it's not.
Madness.
No, not in the Final Four. I want the best teams at the top.
It was still a great Final Four.
You can't convince me. I don't know. I think it's a great tournament. Don't get me wrong. Top 3, but the moments in 2026, I think, carry it to the top.
Okay, yeah. My biggest surprise.
I can't believe 22 isn't on 1 for you.
26 that high. 22 is 2. That's fair. I think that's ridiculous. That's my big takeaway. I think other than that, respectable decisions from you.
You're getting blinded by nostalgia over here.
All right, that was fun, ranking the last 5 tournaments, and March Madness is great no matter what, like Drew said, year in, year out. Time for a break, but when we return, it's a season rewind. We're going to take you all the way back to the start and take you through the biggest storylines of the season that was in college basketball.
They took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back into No Pulp. Drew Albaugh alongside my good friend and, of course, shouting match partner, Sam Reis over here.
Yeah, we've done plenty of that.
There we go. We just looked at the last 5 years after looking at, of course, today's big win for Michigan, taking down UConn in the national championship. Dusty May gets his first. But now we have to go through this season rewind. 2026 had a lot of great moments, and it all started back in the preseason, what feels like decades ago, the preseason rankings. And there was some teams that ended up at the top of the mountain in the top 10, but also there were some teams in the top 10, BYU, that kind of faltered towards the end there.
BYU is the big one, right? That you look at and say, wow, they were number 8 in the preseason poll. And to be fair, understandably so. When you got A.J. DeBonsa, Richie Saunders, the talent was there, right? But it just never clicked for them consistently throughout the season, and they bowed out in the first round against Texas. Kentucky's another one, right? Number 9 in the preseason poll, and they just didn't have it throughout the season. Otega Owe, such a great player, but not enough players around him really stepped up.
Yeah.
So those are the two I look at that say, maybe a little out of place in hindsight. Everyone else, though, I think it was pretty fair.
Right, Purdue, Florida, Houston, all kind of headlined this year's preseason.
Yeah.
And all performed for the most part. Of course, Florida gets bounced pretty early by
still a 1 seed,
Iowa,
though.
but still gets the 1 seed.
A great regular season.
Right, you can't fault them too much, loses against a good team. There you have it, the top 10. And Texas Tech had some injuries down the stretch.
Yeah, Toppin.
Right, you could kind of point to that there. St. John's, up and down season, but the Red Storm at the end of the day, say what you will, Patino got them boys fired up.
He did.
And towards the end of the year started playing their best basketball.
I'm glad you brought up St. John's because they were an interesting one where at a midway point of the season, it felt like maybe that preseason ranking was way too high. Like they're not playing to their potential.
Didn't it feel like the year prior?
No. But then he got them right.
He's one of the best coaches in college basketball.
And this could have been a St. John's team that made a run to the Final Four with their talent. Just fell short in that game against Duke. All right, that was the preseason poll, but let's get into the season once non-conference play wrapped up, right? And we got things going.
You got to play basketball eventually.
Yeah, there were a few teams left undefeated, 5 to be precise. And some of them were a bit interesting.
Right? One in particular.
Which one are you saying?
Miami, Ohio.
Yeah, but a bad schedule, so that was not the craziest.
It was
more impressive deeper in the season. Nebraska, for me, was an interesting
it was a good one,
But they also had a little bit of a cupcake of a schedule until that point, right?
Sure. Okay. And it was a top 10 team at this point at the unbeaten stretch through non-conference action. And then, of course, Iowa State, Michigan, and Arizona, the 3 other undefeated
squads. So those were the
squads.
legit ones that we could tell at that point.
Right, and they were ranked top 3. And they kind of prove it down the stretch. I had Iowa State winning the whole thing.
Did you really?
For March Madness this year. Doesn't end up happening, but you point to Michigan and Arizona. I think those were the 2 best teams in all of college basketball. I will say, for as much as conference play matters, you can tell pretty quickly through the non-con who the top teams are, the cream of the crop, and it shows up every year, and it does yet again.
It does. Because Arizona played Florida, UCLA, UConn, Alabama, won all of those games.
Yeah.
It's like you're already proving yourself before a gauntlet of a Big 12 schedule. So that's when you knew Arizona was legit. That was a big letdown the other day in the Final Four. And then Michigan, they went into Vegas and acted like it was a tune-up tournament when they were playing some good teams, right? They beat San Diego State by 40, Auburn by 30. And then in the championship game, Gonzaga by 40. Like, that's when you
could
said,
tell. You really could.
Conference play hasn't started yet, but this Michigan team's legit. And now they're not only Players Era Festival champions, they're national champions.
Just a little bit better, I guess. And Miami, Ohio still takes down SMU in the first 4. So even right, you could argue was a successful season as well. This year could not be defined by anything else other than, of course, also the injury bug. It might be the worst bug other than mosquito on this entire planet because it's so disappointing to watch
these.
Injuries
are worse than bites.
Oh, I hate mosquitoes, Sam.
Right.
But the injury bug got to a lot of players this season, highlighting the bunch, of course. I mean, Darren Peterson was practically injured the whole year with a bag of pretty much everything under the sun, ankle, quad, hamstring, the cramping. But of course, Caleb Wilson, JT Toppin, just a few to highlight the marquee players that found themselves on the sidelines instead of on the court.
Richie Saunders, too.
Yeah.
That was a big blow. We learned
Talk
that
about
for
BYU. Right.
Because as great as Dibonsa is, like, he can't carry that whole team. As we saw throughout the season, they finished with around a 500 record in Big 12
What do you think
play.
was the biggest what if of this season? Because I think it's JT Toppin.
Yeah,
going out for Texas Tech.
Because that Texas Tech team,
that's
they
star.
beat Duke, right? They had some big wins. They beat Arizona, too.
Yeah.
So those are some massive wins with Toppin.
And then end up losing to Alabama by 25 in the second round.
The torn ACL is brutal. I just want to quickly touch on Caleb Wilson. Because that UNC team, they beat Duke in that rivalry game. They had so much potential there. And if Caleb Wilson is healthy throughout the season, there's a good chance Hubert Davis is still the head coach.
Right.
That's fair to say, right?
Thumb, that fracture. I mean, he was averaging 20 points and 10 rebounds.
Right.
North Carolina, before Wilson's injury, ranked 11th in the AP poll, 19-4, and afterwards drops 10 spots, 5-4 record without Wilson. But you can kind of pretty much look up and down this list. BYU before and after Saunders, completely different. Texas Tech, of course, without Toppin. So it's unfortunate, and it's almost a big what if for this team's that you can almost, it's not a pass, but you can point to North Carolina, BYU, Texas Tech, and it's a legitimate out. I really do think that, yes, it's unfortunate Hubert Davis's job then, of course, gets, out the wazoo because of it. But Caleb Wilson, you lose your best player. That's what ends up happening.
Yeah, no, it's tough. Injuries are a part of the game, though.
Yeah, it's true. How do you respond to it? Yeah.
Right. All right, let's advance a little bit to postseason basketball.
Oh, yes.
Because then the conference tournaments came around in March, which really gets you excited in the March Madness mood. And there were some notable results in the conference tournament across the board. I immediately point to UConn getting crushed by St. John's in the Big East title game. And then also Michigan losing its conference tournament championship to Purdue. Both of those teams still meet in the Natty, so it shows that you can't put too much on those conference tournaments.
For sure, and I think if Purdue lost to Michigan and the Wolverines took it, over 50% of all brackets would have had Michigan, still one of the favorites, but that was a big loss. And then Arizona beats Houston in a classic, that 5-point win for their first Big 12 title.
Well, the classic was the game before the buzzer beater against Iowa State.
Right.
That was the best ending to a power conference tournament game across the board. But you're right. Then they went and the next day got the job done to win the tournament. Yeah.
And of course, Duke controls the ACC from start to finish. Beat Virginia in the final by just 4.
Yeah, but people forget, Duke almost lost in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament. They beat Florida State by 1 point.
Do you think it was kind of the same thing as Siena? Maybe not putting their foot all the way down on the gas?
Yeah, maybe. I guess. That was just a weird game where, Florida State had a chance there. That would have been crazy if they won that game.
And, of course, you got to mention Arkansas.
Yeah, and what a road it was for Arkansas in particular, because the SEC was a bit crazy. Because Arkansas's path was beating the 11 seed Oklahoma by 3. The 15 seed Ole Miss in the semifinals in overtime, and then Vanderbilt in the championship. So that was interesting. Darius Acuff balled out in that tournament. And yeah, Arkansas had some momentum going into March Madness because of that sprint, I guess you could call it, in Nashville.
First SEC chip for the Razorbacks since 2000. A big one for the Razorbacks and Arkansas. But at the end of the day, that's not the postseason that everyone cares about. No. The postseason is, of course, the NCAA tournament. We just got out of it. Michigan takes down UConn in the finals, but how about leading up to it? There were some big storylines. The first 4 out raised a little bit of controversy, but for the most part, I feel like the committee got this one right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Duke, the #1 overall seed, and Miami, Ohio, the undefeated regular season, just gets them in.
Yeah, well, so, there's fun moments throughout the year. I guess Christmas morning is one. Selection Sunday's got to be right up there, though.
Yeah, Christmas morning, of course.
Yeah, but Selection Sunday,
it might be better than that.
Maybe, it's great. But, it's because of the suspense, right?
Yeah.
And I will say, this year more than others, I felt like there were less complaints, and rightly so, about
the
committee's
got it
decisions.
Right.
Yeah, there was talk about whether or not Auburn should get in. They did win the NIT last night. So,
Okay.
That's
all right.
But they shouldn't have gotten in. They shouldn't
NIT.
have gotten in. The big question was Miami of Ohio, because they lost in the MAC quarterfinals to UMass for their first loss of the entire season. They rightly got in my opinion, and they proved they belonged by beating SMU, who probably shouldn't have got in, to be honest with you, because SMU was claiming their best player, B.J. Edwards, would be back, and then he didn't play.
Yeah.
That's Bush League, by the way. But, Miami beat SMU, proved they belonged in the field. So I think that was the right decision by the committee to give them their shot.
And I think the 4 1 seeds were right. Duke, Arizona, Michigan, Florida. I don't think you can have an argument there.
Right.
And the last 4 in, say what you will about including Texas. Texas got it done not once but twice.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, beat BYU to open things up. And unfortunately, the Auburns of the world, the Oklahoma States, they don't get in, but I think that was the right call.
I agree.
And a really good March Madness. I think maybe the second best over the last 5 years.
No, it wasn't great. It didn't deliver, but that's all right.
You think it was the 5th best?
Yeah. But that's all right. It was a fine tournament.
There was plenty of great moments in this one.
Stop complaining. I will say,
look at them.
When the selection show happened, in terms of the seed line, right? I think St. John's being at 5 was one of them that was, should they have been a top 4 after crushing UConn in the Big East championship? not the end of the world, but the East region is the one that caught the eye with just so many
much
blue
talent.
bloods and great coaches.
Sam, in a tournament that was just so bad for you, what was the best game in said tournament?
Well,
because I can pick probably a dozen in one of the better tournaments over the last 5 years.
I can pick maybe 2. It's UConn Duke. It was great. We were playing intramural futsal. Luckily, it was halftime, so we pulled up the game on the phone, and we saw that buzzer beater
And I didn't think we'd have any problem at one point, because 19 points.
I didn't think so
like,
either. We thought
all
it was
right,
over.
Fine.
That was great. I would say it saved what was an otherwise underwhelming tournament.
How about Santa Clara, Kentucky? I think that's
great.
my favorite.
I was listening to that on Westwood 1
Oh.
on my drive to UConn.
It was a good call?
It was a good call.
Okay.
I forget who was on the call, but that was a fun one to listen to live. I couldn't believe it. Right?
Yeah.
You don't expect a big shot buzzer beater from near midcourt.
High Point, Wisconsin, also great. Well, there's a few great ones.
Love the High Point coach.
Oh, yeah. How about this, Sam? We're just about wrapping up shop here on the NCAA tournament and on No Pulp. But we're still with you guys for just about 10 more minutes. It's the plays and the stories of the season coming up right here on No Pulp.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're back on No Pulp. Hope you're still awake with us and energized because we still
I'm ready to go.
Yeah, Drew's ready to go. That's Drew Albaugh. I'm Sam Reis. We're winding down, but we still have a lot more fun coming your way because, yes, the season just ended. I'm looking at the clock.
You gotta look at you're a big time
About an
guy.
hour and a half ago.
Do you still got your watch on yet?
I do. Yep. About an hour and a
Probably
half
easier.
ago is when the season came to an end. But it's not too soon to be talking about next season. So let's do it. Before we close up shop here on No Pulp, we're going to give our way too early big three.
Way too early.
Way too early. Like we could be fools with this.
Right.
But we're going to give it our best shot right now. So we'll start with myself, actually. Let's do it. You can see it. Yeah, so I like the Fighting Illini, actually. And maybe it's a little bold to put them at number 1. Yeah, you're losing Wagler and Boswell, right? But the itches are all staying. Mirkovic, Stojakovic, or they should, Ivasic, Petrovic. And also, they have Tony Bilic, who joined the team mid-season, didn't play because he was rostered in January, joined spring semester. I've heard the Croatian is a pretty good player too. And Underwood likes bringing in these foreigners who play very well.
They say they have a scout to Europe every month, 12 months of the year.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think they have enough talent that should be coming back. Not to mention, they just had Quentin Coleman, a top 40 recruit this past weekend, officially commit to Illinois. I think he could be a starter come next season. So I'm high on the Illini after this season.
And then
apparently we're going to you now.
Okay, well, I'll go to my big
We're going to
three.
go back and forth here. So we'll go with
all right,
you.
Of course. My big three here. My number 1, we're going to start with number 1, Iowa State, the Cyclones. This is a team that I picked to win the whole darn thing. And that's why I think Iowa State is going to just do it again. Yes, you're losing some talent, but head coach TJ Otzelberger, one of the best in the entire country, and this is a Cyclones team, top 10 in NIL fund, and I think that's what really drives college basketball. Good coach, NIL fund, you win a lot of games. I got Iowa State in my number 1. Speaking of the exact same formula, head coach Painter and this Purdue Boilermakers squad, it's another squad with a huge NIL fund, a really good coach, And that's why I think Purdue's number 2, despite losing a lot of talent.
Okay.
And finally,
all right, so,
it's got to be UConn and Dan Hurley. Because Dan Hurley, if you bet against Dan Hurley, you're a fool. And that's why this is my top 3 big 3.
Okay, cool. I realize I didn't get to my others, but we got to move things along. It's Duke and Michigan State, in case you were curious. But I'm high on the Illini. All right, let's get to plays of the season as well, because it's not just plays of the week like we usually do. We're doing plays of the season, and we'll start with mine. It has to be Braylon Mullins, right? I mean, come on. Duke, you just have to hold on to the ball. What are you doing, Boozer? Oh, my goodness. But look at this.
Good pass.
Pick it out, and he's way out here. That's like 36 feet away. That's like 12 feet beyond the three-point line. Only Steph Curry's supposed to make those kind of shots. In that moment, the kid from Indiana sending his team to Indianapolis in the Final Four and really stunning Duke. That was unbelievable, Drew.
One of the best moments over the last decade. I mean, what a shot. How about that? You can't pick against that one, but I'm about to. I think I'm going to go with another big shot. This one was at the buzzer to go to overtime, and of course, it was Kentucky taking down Santa Clara. And let's just roll the tape. Last few seconds here, the hook off the glass and in. How about that? The bank is open 7 days of the week, 365. Otega Owe, the game winner, finishes with 35 points. Oh my goodness, right off of the glass, stares at his head coach Mark Pope, and this was right after Santa Clara hit a big shot of its own as well. Allen Graves buried a go-ahead 3 for Santa Clara, and how about that shot, the 32-foot buzzer beater to force overtime. Kentucky did win that ball game.
Hey, those are some great plays of the season, if you ask me. And now it's time for our stories of the season. I'll begin with mine. With another season in the books, it's now time to look towards the future now. And just days ago, it was reported that the NCAA is expected to finalize an expansion of both the men's and women's tournaments to 76 teams soon. But I'm here to tell you that this better not be true, folks. The tournament has been and continues to be perfect as it is, and that's why we all love it so much. I get that money and greed is really the only reason there would be expansion, but let's all use common sense in decision making here. In the current format of 68 teams, it's really ideal, small enough for it to still really mean something to get into the NCAA tournament, but also big enough still for the chance of upsets and Cinderella stories to develop each year. Expanding the tournament, though, would ruin all of that. Not only would making March Madness lose its significance, but that would also make the regular season less important, result in more blowouts in the early rounds of the tournament, and likely just put more mediocre power conference teams in the field, which we definitely don't need. What I'm telling you is the argument for tournament expansion really shouldn't exist at all, and if it does happen like reports suggest, it will destroy everything that makes March Madness so awesome. Don't mess around with something that's great the way it is, or else you ruin the risk of ruining your own product.
I totally agree with you, Sam. For my final sound off, my final word, whatever you want to call it here in the 2026 season, I'm going to go over to the women's side. In the late 1990s, a young Corey Close visited an apartment in LA to meet Hall of Fame coach and 10-time NCAA champion John Wooden. Upon arrival, Wooden asked how she spelled her first name, and it turned out C-O-R-I was the same way his great-granddaughter's name was spelled. He took her inside to show a bench with that same unique spelling engraved. That connection sparked a 15-year friendship between the two. Every Tuesday, they would talk about everything from basketball, coaching, life, and everything in between. In 2010, John Wooden passed away at the age of 99. Less than a year later, Corey Close became UCLA's women's head coach. But the journey was just beginning. Over a decade passed, and the Bruins made the Elite Eight just once. The breakthrough didn't come until last season, UCLA's first ever Final Four, but the Bruins lost to UConn by 34. That offseason, Close admitted she didn't know how much longer she could coach for. Fast forward, and this past season, Close returned with a new mindset and an old voice in her ear. Here she was after a Final Four win over Texas.
Was a sense that you could compete at the highest levels you could master your craft, and you could do it in a transformational, character-building way. And I was almost losing hope that that was possible. And then Coach Wooden was like, no, it can be done.
And it could be done. This past weekend, after 15 years at the helm, the Bruins won their first ever national championship. John Wooden taught her it could be done. Sam, how about that final story? Corey Close,
awesome,
under John Wooden's watchful ear, finally gets it done. And the Bruins win the whole thing.
Yeah, big congratulations to UCLA. I'm a big fan of those Gabriela Jaquez TikTok dances, by the way.
How about that
Fun
transition?
team, the Bruins. And that does it for an hour-long edition of No Pulp. For our producer, Nick King. My partner, Drew Albaugh. I'm Sam Reis saying, get some sleep, everyone.